You are already familiar with the incredible and engaging programming podcasts offer you. But did you know that companies are beginning to tap into the power of podcasting inside their organizations? Through a next-generation communication platform, Aimcast is already turning teams into communities. Leading Fortune 500 companies are already using Aimcast to better deliver sales training, corporate values and culture, virtual courses, customer engagement, human resources, messages from leadership, sharing insights and best practices, and even develop their own corporate podcasting programming. Head on over to aimcast.com and request a demo to experience what top global companies are already experiencing through the Aimcast platform. That's Aimcast, AIMECAST.com. Get your organization to connect and engage with Aimcast.
Discovered by the Germans in 1904, they named it San Diego, which of course in German means a whale's vagina. Today it's called Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond.
A third of the people love you, a third don't care about you, and a third hate you. So you concentrate on the third that love you and you go for it.
I think the greatest Achilles heel for leaders is they don't give themselves time to think.
So my journey is one of those, there are a lot of detours. There's a lot of going off on the side roads.
Thrive Out listeners, you're in for a treat. We're here with Jamal Mashburn,
Jesse Itzler,
the John Maxwell,
Jackie the Joke Man Martling, New York Rangers great Mike Richter,
Lisa Lampanelli,
Mary Carrillo.
Oh, how nice.
I'm actually going through the practice of being an entrepreneur.
Pick yourself up, brush yourself off, and thrive loud.
Get ready to thrive loud with Lou Diamond.
I love it.
Welcome everyone to another episode of Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond, connecting you to the most inspiring and amazing people that are thriving each and every day. I'm your host, Lou Diamond. Today on Thrive Loud, we have one of the country's top 10 motivational speakers, a critically acclaimed author, award-winning musician, podcast host, and the CEO and founder of Rockstar Impact, a boutique agency that teaches people and organizations how to cultivate values-based leadership. He is passionate, engaging, and transformational, and encourages audience to move forward with deliberate intention, dive deeper into their lives, and give them the airplay needed to become life-changing anthems that change what's possible. Who's the black sheep? Thrive Loud listeners, Brant Menswar. Brant, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Lou. Thanks for having me, brother.
Brant is here coming from us from freezing cold in the middle of the summer, somewhere in the Panhandle, in Florida, not in the Panhandle,
Yes.
in the middle, just southeast of Orlando. We were able to make sure that the podcast equipment didn't melt at the time we recorded this, but I'm very glad that we're able to get you at least, while you're sweating.
It's a balmy 102 today.
Nothing quite like the humidity. I love when people out west in Arizona start complaining about how hot it is because they don't have humidity. They have no idea. It's only 110 in the shade over there.
So. That's right. You can still breathe.
Absolutely. So very glad to have you on the show. We just were kicking back and forth all the lovely speaking people that we know, and we're in a unique world that we're in. But I want our listeners to kind of learn a little bit about what you're focusing on now, because I think that'll help connect the dots a little bit, and then we'll get into a fun conversation. So Brant, share with the listeners what you've been focusing on right now.
Oh, brother, the last 6 months or so has been full focus on this new book that launches September 29th called Black Sheep, Unleash the Extraordinary, Awe-Inspiring, Undiscovered You. And it's all about discovering what I call your flock of 5 black sheep values. The crazy thing for me was I think I was 47 years old when I learned why farmers don't value black sheep like the rest of the flock. Which is because a black sheep's wool cannot be dyed.
That's right.
So every black sheep is in effect 100% authentically original. And I believe that's our goal in life, is to be who we were created to be. And so this book helps you discover what is your flock of 5 unchangeable, undyeable, uninfluenceable core values, and that is what it's all about. And so it's been just full on here. I'm launching an apparel brand. We've got partnerships with tequila companies. It's
Nice.
It's a party over here, brother. It's just trying to get everything in order and all my ducks in a row. And I am not known for my organizational skills. Let's just say that.
Brant, we'll put it on the all the podcast art. We'll put the cover of the book and all that stuff. By the way, I find that ironic that we were connected. Shout out here to Neen James, who is known for her organizational skills, which is rather interesting, right? No wonder why you're attracted to her. Like that person might be.
She's amazing. She's amazing. We caught up the other day, and I just love her. She's intelligent and beautiful and smart and funny and all those sorts of things. But she's like, "What can I do for you?" And that's always her first question, and I'm like, gosh, how about what can I do for you? But she immediately was like, oh, I got to connect you with Lou. I got to connect you with a few people. And I woke up Saturday morning to like 14 emails with me organizationally getting everything done.
Let's talk about this. You said you're not the most organized person in the world. I want to talk about your writing process and putting this book together. First of all, what inspired you having to do this? And then what was it like putting this book together?
Yeah. So the inspiration behind the book goes back to 2012.
Okay.
So I have two boys with my wife. And when our oldest son, Theo, was 14 years old, he was diagnosed with a rare blood cancer. And he was going to require a bone marrow transplant to survive. And so we started that journey and spent 263 straight days in the hospital with him battling. And in the middle of that fight, we were faced with this impossible scenario, is what we were told. He got the transplant. We were fortunate enough to find a match. And after the transplant happened, he developed something called graft versus host disease, which is where the marrow that's inserted in your body doesn't recognize the environment that it's been placed in. And so it begins to attack the organs. And so the way that you treat it is you super suppress the immune system so the body won't fight back. And so they did that. And while they did that, he ended up contracting a deadly fungus because he had no immune system while he was in the hospital. And the way that you treated the fungus was you super boosted the immune system. So the two treatments were killing him, and created a zero-sum game. So the doctors gave up. They told us to say our goodbyes. They didn't think he was going to make it through the night. I ended up, going back into the room with my wife and grabbed his younger brother and sat on the edge of the bed. And you find yourself in this incredibly, I don't even know the word. The situation was awful. Let's just say that. And you're searching for the words to say goodbye. And that you do it, you feel awful. At that moment, I had to call my brother, who lives 1,500 miles away, and say, listen, you aren't going to have time to make it. If you're going to say your goodbyes, you have to do it over the phone. And so he was distraught, of course. And he went ahead and did it. But that night, he ended up filming himself sitting on his couch, holding up these poster boards in a Hail Mary attempt to try to find a solution. And, my nephew's dying. He's got less than 24 hours. This is what's happening. This is what he's taking. This is what he has. He never said a word. He played the song Fix You by Coldplay, and that was the extent of it. And when the song ended, the video ended. Well, Theo made it through the night. I sat on the edge of that bed waiting for him to pass all night. And I'm just trying to be in the moment, and catch every last second that I can with him. And as I'm sitting there, my phone's ringing off the hook, and I just want to be present. So I'm ignoring it. 3 or 4 hours later, my phone is actually hot to touch because it's been vibrating for 3 or 4 hours. So I finally pick it up. I look at it, and I have all these texts and voicemails and emails from people that I don't know. And what had happened was that video my brother filmed and uploaded to YouTube was seen by over 500,000 people by the time I grabbed my phone. And I was getting calls from doctors from all over the world who said, I saw this video and I think I might be able to help. And so one of those calls came from Dr. At MD Anderson in Houston, Dr. Kodianis. And he's like, hey, there's this new treatment. I think it might actually help solve one of the issues that you're battling. Can I talk to your doctor? Then I got a call from Dr. Tim Johnson from Good Morning America, who said, you make a list. Tell me anybody you want to speak with in the next 24 hours. I'll make it happen. And so we did. We made a list of someone at Dana-Farber in Boston Cancer Hospital and a research scientist at Cornell University. And the 4 doctors put their heads together and came up with this batshit crazy plan to try to save Theo's life. And it worked. Wow. So we went from say your goodbyes to finding a solution in 24 hours. And what happened during that moment for me was, for the next few years, every night I went to bed and I had one question that just burned in my head, which was, I wonder if he thinks I gave up on him. And you don't want to go to bed every night with that level of guilt. And it was a valid question, and my problem was I let somebody else dictate what mattered to me. And if I would have defined these black sheep values in my life, if I would have known what my non-negotiables were, the conversation I would have had with him would have been drastically different. It would have been filled with hope and impact and creativity and all the things that matter to me. And instead, I let my emotions drive the bus. And it was hard to get over that. It was hard to forgive myself. And so this book was born out of that need of people having to define these non-negotiables in your life. So when the biggest storm you could ever expect comes rolling in, you're prepared and you actually can handle what's thrown at you. And so that's the birth of this book and where it came from.
First of all, thank you for sharing that story. How is he today?
So, you know what? He's doing amazing. Before the Rona hit everybody, he had one semester in college, local college here, but it's the first time he's been in a classroom with other kids since the 8th grade. Wow. And so he's doing really, really well. And we hope he's going to continue. He had a kidney transplant about a year and a half ago. And so he is immunosuppressed. So we've got him under lock and key with all of this stuff happening right now. But for the most part, we could not be happier with the progress he's making.
Brant, it's amazing. Events like this, obviously change the way you change what you believe or alter the way you think. Mm-hmm. And you have been an inspiring speaker for your career, which is one of the key things that you're doing all the time. People tell me all the time as a motivational type person, what happens when you have trouble being motivated, what turns you on. Yeah. As you look at the situation from kind of like a blimp view and you look at how you communicate the message you do to your clients, this is the message I'm asking you right now. How do you communicate this message to yourself? Because I think our listeners would love to know this, because we have lots of motivational speakers out there. And look, a book got spawned out of this from the inspiration and the lessons learned.
Yeah.
What did you do to kind of like motivate you during the time, which is, just to say awe-inspiring, this is awestruck and devastating, to almost miraculous. So I would love for you to share that if you could.
Well, Lou, it's a great question. And it's one that is difficult to answer. I am a control freak of the umpteenth degree. I love to control everything. If you invited me out to dinner, I would drive your car. That's the level of control that I like to have in my life.
COVID-19 is doing you wonders, Brant.
Gosh, I got to tell you, it is not pretty. So for me, I had to come to this realization that I was winging it. And that is I think we all like to tell ourselves that the easiest person to be honest with is yourself, right? Because you can lie to other people, you can live this facade, you can put on a mask, you can do whatever you want and pretend to be something that you're not. But with ourselves, we have a tendency to believe, I think, that we can be honest. But the truth is, I think it's just the opposite. I think we're the hardest people to be honest with ourselves, because it forces us to face some really difficult questions. And I've spent the last 2 years asking people, can you tell me in one succinct sentence what your life's purpose is? And the truth is, a fraction of a percent can actually do it. And when I dig down even more and ask, tell me what your 5 non-negotiables are. What are those 5 personal core values? Why did you choose them? And how do you speak them into existence every day? I get blank stares. And so the truth, that even though we don't want to admit it, is that 99% of us are winging it. And because we've been able to be successful as we are, even those of us who think we're not good at winging it actually are quite adept. And so when it's been as easy as it's been winging it, and we haven't quite reached that place in our life that we want to go to, you have to get to this point to say, are you ready to live with deliberate intention? Are you ready to do the deep dive and define these things? Choose a purpose that's in alignment with these things that we say matter most to us, and then speak it into existence. And I wasn't ready for that until I was 47, 48 years old.
Yeah. Very cool. I'm I feel like I'm sitting on a road and there's 15 places to go, and I'm trying to choose which street to pick right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick all of them. I'm going to go down this way first. And that is, I want to talk a little bit about what you've been doing during this window of time during COVID, because you've made kind of a shift. And I want to start this by talking about the fact that you're a heck of a musician too. So maybe we can balance those two together and talk about what you've been doing right now as you've been moving. You've been promoting the book over these last 6 months and getting everything queued up for that, but you've been doing some amazing stuff in the virtual space. Can you share with the listeners what's going on there?
Sure, bud. You know, for me, once, there was about a week that happened in March where everything shifted, everything changed. And so, I at the time I was exclusive with Kepler speakers. Yep. And, I got a call from my agent over there who was like, hey, we need to talk. and
everything's been canceled.
Every gig started to evaporate. Very few decided at that time to switch to virtual. And so many of them postponed or just flat out canceled. And so, you watch literally your entire year's income disappear in a matter of a week. And so while that was happening, I just made the choice to flip to virtual. And so I really invested. I built a full scale multi-camera video production studio in my office. And I dove headfirst into figuring out how to do this. How can I provide something that is above and beyond what people are used to? Not a boring Zoom talking head with a deck presentation. This is like a late night television show. Can I soundtrack the talk? Can I switch between cameras? Can I bring in animation? Can I use bumpers? Can I do all of these different things that people are so used to watching and have no problem spending 30 minutes to an hour watching an engaging television show? And that's what I've produced. And it's led to me being able to stay busy and engage on a different level. I think many speaker friends that I think you and I both have got real nervous when the shift to digital and virtual sort of happened, because they like the stage. And as you said, I come 20 years in the music business, 2 different record deals, 2 different bands. And so trust me, the stage is where I'm probably most comfortable. But what I have found is that the stage is a great place to inspire, but it is not a great place to drive behavior change.
Yeah, good point.
It's not as intimate, right? So what this virtual space allows for is for me to be, 14 inches from the camera lens and look deep into it and drive the type of behavior change that has transformation on the other end. And that is something that is an incredible opportunity if you're willing to sort of invest and shift and know that this is the difference between theater and film, right? No giant motions anymore, no flamboyant stuff on stage. Now everything is super compressed into this tiny little screen. And instead of getting really loud, we have to get really soft and focus and get people and draw their attention. And so you start to learn to adapt. And that's all I've been doing for 4 months.
It's really funny, Brant. We just dropped this little piece because we've been doing kind of these catch-up episodes of Thrive Loud, which we call Thrive Loud Live. And we've been doing them every 2 weeks just to catch up with a certain guest. And we've been doing them live on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, whatever medium we're able to throw it out on, where it's kind of like we're throwing shit at the wall to try and see what sticks. But meanwhile, it's getting tremendous engagement. And two people who we both know have done a really good job of explaining what you just did. Tammy Evans talked about the fact that you have to penetrate through this little glass thing. There literally is a glass barrier between, the camera lens and you and, the audience. And the other was Julianne Sullivan, who made a point. She goes, when I'm on stage, I'm way further away. And she actually likes the fact, whether it's in a Zoom conference room or presenting virtually in a larger group, that she's much closer to everybody else. So it was a really interesting, point where everyone's balancing it. And I think there's a combination between the two that we're all looking for. And that's really, where we'll probably get to as we eventually get out of this craziness, whether it's the really, amazing heat or air conditioning that you're stuck in for good reasons, or COVID starts to dissipate in different ways. I do want to do this because this is something that's there. I want to know what you miss the most about being on stage, and what you miss the least about it.
So what I miss the most is the accommodations. It's a big joke that I spent 20 years as a literal rock star, and I get treated way more like a rock star now than when I actually was one. So, staying in the 5-star resorts and the gift baskets and the swag and everything is what I miss the most. I love showing up and going, oh, look at these chocolates. It's an amazing life when you get to that point. And what I don't miss is the travel, number one. Yeah. And I got to tell you, just the nature of what I speak on and sort of being honest and raw and vulnerable, as incredible as it is in a powerful way to connect with an audience, most of my time is spent when I'm done and I walk off the stage. And while some speakers, shake hands and kiss babies, I usually have a line of people waiting to tell me the worst thing that's ever happened to them in their life. And they want to share, they want to dump that. They're broken and they want to share that brokenness, and they know that I'm going to understand. And so, it's a really tough thing for me to walk off the platform thinking that you want to celebrate, you just killed it, you brought the house down. And there's a person that the first person in line is, I lost my child when he was 7. And it's a double-edged sword, right? I want that impact. I want that ability to connect and make them feel like, they can tell me that. And the truth is I've had to make some adjustments. And our friend Scott Stratton, we sat in a Waffle House months and months and months ago, and I said, you got to help me figure this out because it's killing me. I walk off the stage and I leave, and it's an hour and a half for me to get out of the room. And so I had to put a slide in my presentation that said, if you want to connect, if something happened to you and this resonates, please, here's my personal email, send me, I promise you I will write you back. And that has helped me sort of cope with the heaviness that can happen after a talk. And so I don't miss those 2 hours of hearing just heartbreaking stories that makes it really hard to feel good about doing something powerful on stage.
Brant, it's interesting. It's the priest, pastor, rabbi effect, actually. Like, people don't know this, but like that's, how many times people like that, they're dealing with those that are passing, that are ill, and, you might see them during, a holiday or something like that. But the reality is that most of their time is dealing with that. That's exactly right. Yeah, that's why they all meet, and that's why they drink so much. Actually, no, I'm just kidding.
Port wine, baby.
I kid to all those out there. All that being said, by the way, this is fabulous stuff, and it's great to hear all the things that are out there. I'm going to ask this question as it relates to everything that you do today, because you had touched upon it earlier when you explained the situation with your son. But obviously, those days where we're kicking on all cylinders and we're rocking it and we love it and we're thriving, we're happy. But we also have obviously days, as you described, and other days when we're not quite kicking on all cylinders. When you have trouble thriving, Brant, what practice do you seek, or what individual do you seek out to get back on the thriving track?
So, that's a yes and question for me. So I have,
nice coaching move there. Well done.
Yeah. I have an inner circle. I have a very small group of people that have earned the right to speak truth into my life, whether I like it or not. And so I always keep them very, very close, because they are my church while I'm on the road. And it is incredibly valuable to have somebody who isn't afraid to say what needs to be said. So on one side, that's having those people there that I can ask if I'm being unreasonable or what's happening, give me a kick in the ass. What is it? And on the other side, part of doing this work of defining these black sheep values is the best part about it for me was I can simply ask myself, is what I am upset about in violation of one of these 5 things? If the answer is no, let it go. And before I had done that, I had 30 or 40 things that were incredibly important, but they weren't non-negotiables. And so when I found my non-negotiables, it made it so much easier for me to let the things go that have to be let go so that I can focus on what I need to move forward.
Brant, let's do this. Let's share with the listeners the admin part of the show.
Yeah.
Tell them all the places people can find you, websites, links, when the book's coming out. I think it's September 29th. It looks like it drops, but we'll make sure we put that in the notes. Yeah. We will put everything in the notes, but it always sounds better and comes better when they hear it from you.
So they can go to brantmenswar.com for all of my sort of speaking stuff if they want to check that out. For everything with regards to the book, go to findyourblacksheep.com. Not only can they go there and find about the book, they can actually take an assessment to get them to their own flock of 5. So simply click on Find My Flock and take the assessment. You get this email that sort of helps you discover what yours are and put you on that path to proving that they're real. That's the best 2 ways to sort of reach me, are through those 2 things. And super active on social media, just at Brant Menswar, and happy to connect wherever you guys want to.
Permission to go down Fun Street, Brant.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Because we joked about this at the top of the show. Can you share with the listeners your all-time favorite movie?
Yeah. This is embarrassing, but I'm going to tell you, it's Happy Gilmore is my favorite movie of all time.
Okay, so why does this movie connect so much with you?
Well, on the surface, I thought that it was because Adam Sandler and I went to the same high school. We're from the same hometown. He's a couple of years older than me. And I thought it was sort of a, small town boy done good. But as I started to dig deeper into the movie, it actually feeds all of these black sheep values that I have. And that's why it's my favorite. That's why we connect these things. And so mine happen to be creativity, hope, impact, empathy, family, authenticity. That movie is loaded. If you've ever seen him hit a golf ball, it's incredibly creative. He had this hope. All he wanted to do is play hockey, and it never happened. All I wanted to do is to play baseball. And you can see that is not what I'm doing. The impact he had, man, people came out of the woods with the beer helmets and, cut off jean shorts, not exactly your country club flair. And he had an incredible impact wherever he went. That's all I want to do. He did this because he was upset that his grandmother was losing her house. Those are 2, empathy, family, band. They're just incredible for me to sort of have all of these things in one movie. And then finally, authenticity, my favorite part of the whole movie. Beyond, if you remember the Zamboni scene, right, where the guy's singing, of course. My other favorite was he asks out Julie Bowen, the PR agent for the tour, out on a date, and she goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, I don't date golfers." And he looks at her and he goes, "Well, that's good because I'm a hockey player." And that belief in authenticity, that who you are even when you're not doing what you think you should be doing, is what that movie's all about for me, and that's why it's my favorite.
During this window of time when there was no sports, obviously we're slowly creeping back with no fans in the stadiums, but obviously all of the online, links and sites were all coming up with these other things that they could talk about. And I think they came up with the top villains in sports movie, and the number one villain in sports movie was Shooter McGowan. So McGavin.
Yeah, right.
And
you got to follow him on Twitter.
Yes.
Follow him on Twitter. It is the funniest thing you have ever seen. He comments on every golf tournament that happens on the PGA Tour. It's brilliant.
It's pretty brilliant. It's great stuff. And the whole movie is just unbelievable. Specifically the nightmare dream sequence with him, which is just priceless. Okay. Yes. Okay. So this is how this goes. We're going to go down Fun Street and we're going to kind of do rapid fire here.
Okay.
And what I'm going to do is just say whatever comes to your mind. I've used the analogy. It's very much like the end of Family Feud, the speed round, when you provide all your immediate things that you come with. We just haven't surveyed 100 people. We're just asking you, Brant. Okay.
All right.
All right. So with that, a song that you love to listen to that pumps you up.
Final Countdown.
I love it. A favorite food that's not a dessert.
Just cheeseburgers, man. All American boy here.
A favorite dessert.
Ice cream.
An activity you wish you did more of.
Exercise.
An activity you wish you did less of.
Worry.
Okay. If you could snap your fingers and go anywhere, where are you?
I'm in the White Mountains in New Hampshire.
Last question. If you can have an alternative hairstyle of another speaker that you have seen that isn't yours, what hairdo would you go with?
I'm going Scott Stratton, baby. I want the man bun.
That's awesome. Brant Menswar, truly a pleasure to have you here on Thrive Loud. Thank you for sharing all your personal stories, what you're talking about, the black sheep. I just love it. I think this is a great concept. I think this book is going to be awesome. I'm putting it on my list here. We'll make sure to also run a special promo ad when it comes out on the 29th. And we can't thank you enough for coming on the program today. Hopefully you had some fun here.
Thanks, brother. Had a blast.
You got it. And to all our listeners out there, thank you for joining us. And until next time, keep thriving onward and upward. And remember, be brief, be bright, be gone.
You've been listening to Thrive Loud with your host, Lou Diamond. Check us out on the web at thriveloud.com and follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook at Thrive Loud. And check us out on the Good Pods app at Thrive Loud, where you can follow, listen, and connect directly to Lou and all of the Thrive Loud episodes. Thanks for listening.